Alright, so I know that earlier I kind of made a video on like where I might end up at the end of the night, or, just like kind of places that I might sleep. But I thought that it'd be really important to kind of go over the actual like art of sleeping and like technical sleeping, and what it's all about, because a lot of people do ask me, like, despite where I sleep, isn't it cold? How do I prevent, the cold from happening? How do I stay warm? Blah, 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 blah. And so, I think that's a really great question to ask. And I think, I've got my own answer for it. Many people, that live on the streets or in the wilderness have their own answer for it. And really, what it all boils down to is education and experience. So, I always carry around this, which I believe to be honestly the greatest wilderness survival tool of all time. I wish it was, brown or green, but the blue is perfectly fine. But, I kind of always take in account like water, and by water I mean like how much drinking water I have. But like, is the ground wet? Is it going to rain? If it is going to rain, like, am I sleeping in a place that's covered? Or do I have to make shelter really quick somehow? And I mean, yeah, it does get that technical at times. This isn't, like I said in an earlier video, this isn't like night after night at Motel 6 or something like that. I mean, it's the real deal. And a lot of people are afraid to encounter that, but I think that with like proper education and experience, I mean, it's really no big deal. I do it almost every day. So, I'll take that blue tarp if it's really windy, or if I'm just really cold in general, or the ground is wet. That's the worst, when the ground is wet. So, I mean, I'll take this blue tarp and I'll lay it out, and then I managed to come across this here military sleeping bag, which I'm pretty grateful for, because I guess some lady, her husband had left her and he was in the army, and he left a bunch of army crap, and so, what's she gonna do with it? So, she tossed this my way, and this sleeping bag's good for like up to -10. It's a mummy bag. Also, I recommend, if you're ever gonna, like, buy a sleeping bag or liberate one, or however you're gonna get a sleeping bag, get, if you can, a mummy bag. Those things are just ridiculously incredible. So much better than your typical like square sleeping bag that really doesn't hold in as much body heat as the mummy bag does. Um, Also, I think the mummy bags can tend to be a little bit smaller, a little bit more compact, I guess. But anyways, so, when I put this sleeping bag on top of the laid out tarp, I wrap myself up, and I'm windproof, waterproof, weatherproof, and it's like, I don't know, like a big warm Chipotle burrito, pretty much. And I mean, the heat from my body stays inside this, because it's impenetrable. Um, so before I even get into the sleeping bag, though, I make sure I've got like adequate gear on, like, I don't know, these cheap Realtree Thinsulate crap gloves. I mean, they're falling apart at the seams, but I was just in Walmart, put the fucking things on, and walked out. I mean, I wear like, beanies like this, great for keeping um, heat, like, inside your head, keeping your head insulated. Then I'll put like this hat over it, which makes a grand difference. And then, I can buckle this, and that covers my ears, because having ears stretched this big, like, yeah, the thinness of the lobe, it really sucks, and it gets cold really, really fast. So having these flaps, like, completely protects it 100%. If I absolutely have to make shelter, which I have before, if you have, then you've seen the pictures like on my Facebook earlier. I always really advocate this. This is the Fisker's hatchet. It's my favorite hatchet on the market. The S-Wing hatchet's pretty sweet too. They're both about the same weight. The S-Wing hatchet's like $50. This one's 30. I didn't buy this. I put this in my pocket and I walked out of Ace Hardware. But I'm not saying I recommend that. But it's kind of a skill for me. But this thing is incredibly lightweight. incredibly fast, just a very, very aggressive hatchet. And it really, really works really adequately. Um, People always wonder if I get scared while sleeping, because I am always sleeping in an unknown place that I most likely haven't been before. And no, I'm not really scared. I personally think that as much, I think that you kind of control a lot of what comes your way. A lot of people like sit there shivering in fear, and I personally think that just sends a lot of that scared energy out into the world, out into the atmosphere, and it all just comes right back to you. So I just try and not stay scared because I don't find it to be beneficial. um, Things like scarves are really important. Also, before going to bed, something on the road that's really important in my opinion is vitamin C. Vitamin C, I believe, is the cure-all for so many damn things. Like, and I mean, the stupid ass pharmaceutical industry will never tell you that because they don't want you to know shit like that. But vitamin C is just ascorbic acid, and all it does is help your own body fight off its own illnesses. It's not like a medication that goes into you and does the work all for you. It's actually your body fighting its own ailments, which is just, a great concept because then your body is allowed and used to fighting things, and that just makes you stronger. Um, what else? I mean, I've got like, an overcoat here that's really good. I put over, I actually have another sweatshirt over there, but, I put this over that. And, it's just layering that's really important. I only have one set of clothes, and I made sure that the one set I do have is really good for where I'm going to be going. Because, especially in this time, like January, February, most travelers like to kind of kick it in like New Orleans or Atlanta or Key West, Florida or something, which totally obviously makes a lot of sense, or being down in like San Diego or LA, like that totally makes sense, but that just wasn't the prerogative or mission of my traveling this time. I mean, I'm not really afraid to brace the cold, so it's no big deal for me. But I mean, there are, uh, with education and experience, I mean, you can pretty much handle everything. But yeah, I mean, that's what I have to say when it comes to technical sleeping. I really just advocate reading some wilderness survival books, because a lot of those books will teach you how to survive in the wilderness with nothing. No knife, no tools, no nothing. Just from scratch, they teach you, and that is the best way to learn how to really survive. I mean, I've got, other items that I really find to be useful, like this Bowie knife. Has always kept me great company. I mean, it's all surgical steel. It's, you know, obviously a grand knife. In California, it's 100% legal to carry this on your waist. Um, this is not a cheap stainless steel knife. This will not corrode. This will not go to waste. I mean, it's surgical steel, and it's kind of like the metal that the military uses, and it's not cheaply made. It's all like riveted um, and welded into itself. So those are. I I wouldn't really use this for defense. I think it's kind of too bulky and big, and I mean, if you were to like thrust this into anything, you'd have a really hard time. This is most definitely a chopping thing, or if you have to split firewood, you put this on the log and then hit this with a log, and it splits. I mean, that's what knives like this are made for. They're made for survival, not necessarily for defense. Um, I mean, my defense knife comes down to what's in my pocket, which is, this little guy is pretty awesome. I mean, you can obviously see it's got like, the knuckle dusting thing, and then, it's got the knife on top of it. Um, it's really easy. It's really convenient. It's extremely intimidating when people see that. They're like, whoa, they don't even want to, they almost don't even want to talk to you anymore. So, I've never had to like whip that out because, like I said, I think people call in a lot of their own bad energy, but that's just me. But I try and live like really openly, really open-heartedly, just with my heart, and it allows me to have a lot easier of a time, in my opinion. But yeah, like I said, when it comes down to bracing the cold, just make sure you've got the right equipment. A lot of people are willing to kick stuff down to you. I know you can't see it, but right now I've got thermal gear on that a guy just kicked down to me while I stayed at his house one night. He was like, dude, people usually always ask you, do you need anything? Do you need anything? Do you need anything? And I was like, no, not really. And then, of course, they're like, well, I know you need something. They'll always like offer you something, or at least they always do for me. And he's like, well, I got this like hunting thermal gear that's like good for up to like -20. And so, I always wear this stuff. And like, yeah, whenever I go into a building that's like heated or whatever, I'm like sweating balls. But I mean, at the same time, at least I know if I go out into the cold, like, it's nothing. Nothing. It's like cold doesn't even exist. So, yeah, proper gear, proper education. And, yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't usually find myself sleeping in Motel 6, maybe friends' houses here and there, but, it's the real deal. I mean, this could be fatal if I was to do it wrong, but that's where education and experience comes in. But, I won't take up too much more of your day. You guys have fun, and thanks for tuning in.